Let me tell you something about arrogance. I have seen it in CEOs, I have seen it in celebrities, I have seen it in people who inherited money they did not earn and power they did not deserve, but I have never seen arrogance like I saw the day she walked into my courtroom. Her name is Veronica, is 51 years old. She is the wife of a mayor, a small-town mayor with a big ego and an even bigger bank account. She walked into my courtroom wearing a red designer dress that probably cost more than most people's rent. Her hair was perfectly curled. Her jewelry was real. Her heels were so high I wondered how she could walk. She looked at my courtroom like she was doing me a favor by showing up. Behind her walked her lawyer, a woman in an even more expensive suit carrying a leather portfolio that probably cost $5,000. They sat down at the defense table like they were checking into a luxury spa. On the other side of the courtroom sat the plaintiff, a man named David. Contractor. He builds houses, he works with his hands. He showed up in a plaid shirt and work boots with sawdust still on his jeans. He had no lawyer, he had no briefcase, he had a cardboard box filled with papers held together with rubber bands. I looked at Veronica, then I looked at David, and right there, before a single word was spoken, I knew exactly what kind of day this was going to be. Let me tell you what this case was about. David was suing Veronica for $85,000. He had built a guest house on her property, a beautiful guest house with marble floors, custom cabinets, and a fireplace. He had done the work on time and under budget, but Veronica refused to pay him. Not because the work was bad, not because the materials were wrong, not because David had done anything dishonest. Veronica refused to pay because David asked her to sign a contract that is right. She was angry that he wanted a written agreement. She said it was insulting. She said it showed he did not trust her. She said her word was enough. Because her husband was the mayor. David explained that he had been burned before. He had built houses for people who promised to pay and then disappeared. He needed a contract to protect himself and his family. Veronica called him a liar. She called him a con artist. She called him a parasite who preyed on good people. Then she hired a lawyer and countersued David for $100,000. She claimed the guest house was built incorrectly. She claimed the materials were cheap. She claimed David had stolen expensive tools from her garage. $85,000 David was owed, and instead of paying him, Veronica tried to destroy him. So there I was, sitting on my bench looking at this woman in her red designer dress, and I said, "Mrs. Veronica, can you explain to me why you refused to pay this man for the work he did?" Veronica smiled. It was the kind of smile rich people give you when they think you are beneath them. "Your Honor," she said, "I do not pay for shoddy work." I raised an eyebrow. "Shoddy work?" "Yes, the guest house is a disaster. The floors are uneven, the cabinets are crooked, the fireplace does not draw properly. My husband is the mayor. We have a reputation to maintain. I cannot have substandard construction on our property." I looked at David. "Mr. David, what do you say to that?" David stood up. His hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. "Your Honor," he said, "I have photographs of every stage of construction. I have receipts for every material. I have a written inspection from the county building department. The guest house passed every inspection." "Veronica is lying." Veronica laughed, a short, sharp laugh. "Lying," she said. "Why would I lie? I am the mayor's wife. I have nothing to gain by lying." I looked at her. "Mrs. Veronica, you have $85,000 to gain." Her smile flickered. I continued, "You hired Mr. David to build a guest house. He built it. He passed all inspections. You refused to pay. Then you countersued for $100,000. That sounds like someone who is trying to avoid paying what they owe her." Lawyer stood up. "Your Honor, my client is entitled to defend herself." "She is entitled to tell the truth," I said. "Sit down." The lawyer sat. I turned to David. "Mr. David, do you have the inspection reports?" David opened his cardboard box and pulled out a stack of papers. "Yes, Your Honor, every single one signed and stamped by the county inspector." I looked at the papers. They were legitimate. The guest house had passed every inspection, the foundation, the framing, the electrical, the plumbing, the final walkthrough. Everything was approved. I looked at Veronica. "Mrs. Veronica, the county inspector says the guest house is perfect. Your inspector says the guest house is perfect. The only person who says there is a problem is you." Veronica crossed her arms. The inspector must have been bribed. The courtroom went silent. I leaned forward. "Excuse me, you heard me," Veronica said. "This is a small town. Everyone knows everyone. The inspector is friends with David. Of course he passed the construction." I said, "Mrs. Veronica, do you have any evidence of this bribery?" She waved her hand like she was swatting a fly. "I do not need evidence. I am the mayor's wife. People believe me." I looked at her for a long moment. "Mrs. Veronica," I said, "being the mayor's wife does not make you an expert on construction. It does not make you an expert on bribery, and it does not make you above the law." She stared at me. "Now," I said, "let us talk about those stolen tools." Her face went pale. "What tools?" she asked. "The ones you claim David stole from your garage, the ones worth $20,000. Do you have receipts for those tools?" Veronica looked at her lawyer. Her lawyer nodded. "I do not have receipts," she said. "They were gifts from whom my husband So your husband gave you $20,000 worth of tools, but you do not have receipts, and you do not have photographs, and you did not file a police report. Veronica did not answer. I said, Mrs. Veronica, you just made a very big mistake. She thought she had one. She was wrong. I looked at Veronica and I could see her confidence cracking just a little, a tiny hairline fracture in her armor, but enough for me to see the truth underneath. Mrs. Veronica, I said, you claim David stole $20,000 worth of tools from your garage, but you never filed a police report. You never called the insurance company. You never even mentioned it until David sued you for unpaid wages. She shifted in her seat. I did not want to cause a scandal. Yes, my husband is the mayor. A theft at our property would be in the newspapers. I did not want that kind of attention. So instead of reporting a crime, you waited 2 years and then mentioned it in a countersuit. That is correct. I looked at David. Mr. David, did you steal any tools from Mrs. Veronica? David stood up. His face was red. His jaw was tight. No, Your Honor, he said. I have never stolen anything in my life. I worked 60 hours a week on that guest house. I brought my own tools. I used my own materials. I have receipts for everything. I looked at Veronica. Mrs. Veronica, do you have any proof at all that Mr. David stole from you? She looked at her lawyer. Her lawyer handed her a piece of paper. Yes, she said, I have a photograph of what she held up the paper. It was a picture of a tool chest, a very expensive tool chest sitting in a garage. That is my tool chest, she said, and David took it. I looked at the photograph. Mr. David is not in this photograph. There is no evidence he took anything. Veronica put the paper down. The photograph is proof that the tool chest existed. The tool chest existed, I repeated. Yes, but that does not prove Mr. David stole it. Veronica crossed her arms. I know he stole it. You know I am the mayor's wife. My instincts are excellent. I almost laughed. Your instincts, Mrs. Veronica. Your instincts are not evidence. Your feelings are not evidence. Your word is not evidence. Her lawyer stood up. Your Honor, my client is a respected member of the community. I do not care if she is the Queen of England, I said. In my courtroom, everyone is equal, everyone tells the truth, and everyone provides evidence for their claims. The lawyer sat down. I turned to David. Mr. David, do you have any evidence that Mrs. Veronica is lying about the tools? David nodded. He reached into his cardboard box and pulled out a stack of photographs. Yes, Your Honor, he said. These are photographs I took inside the guest house on the day I finished the work. You can see the garage in the background, and you can see the tool chest exactly where Mrs. Veronica left it. He handed me the photographs. I looked at them carefully. The tool chest was clearly visible, sitting in the corner of the garage, dusty, unused. I looked at Veronica. Mrs. Veronica, these photographs were taken after David finished working on your property. The tool chest is right there in your garage. So if the tool chest was there after David left, how could he have stolen it? Veronica's face went red. She looked at her lawyer. Her lawyer looked at the floor. I must have been mistaken. She said, mistaken? Yes, the tool chest must have been stolen later by someone else, a burglar. Perhaps, Mrs. Veronica, you just told this court that David stole your tools. Now you are saying a burglar stole them. Which is it? She did not answer. I said, Mrs. Veronica, I am going to ask you one more time. Did David steal anything from you? She looked at her lawyer. Her lawyer shook his head. No, she whispered. I am sorry, I did not hear. You know, David did not steal anything from me. The courtroom was silent. Carla, David's wife, who was sitting in the audience, started crying quietly. I looked at Veronica. Mrs. Veronica, you have wasted this court's time. You have wasted Mr. David's time. You have lied under oath. She started to speak. I cut her off. Do not waste my time. I turned to my bailiff. Bailiff, please bring in the next witness. The door opened and a man in a blue uniform walked in. He was the county building inspector, the same man who had signed off on David's construction. I said, Mr. Inspector, please state your name for the record. My name is Thomas, he said. I have been the county building inspector for 15 years. I said, Mr. Thomas, did you inspect the guest house that Mr. David built for Mrs. Veronica? Yes, Your Honor, I inspected it 3 times. And what was your conclusion? The construction was excellent. Mr. David is one of the best contractors I have ever worked with. I looked at Veronica. Mrs. Veronica, your own county inspector says the work was excellent. Do you still claim it was shoddy? Veronica did not answer. I said, Mrs. Veronica, you have 60 seconds to apologize to Mr. David. She stared at me. 60 seconds, I said, starting now. She did not move. 55 seconds, nothing. 50 seconds, and then she did something I did not expect. She stood up, she pointed her finger at me, and she humiliated me in front of my own courtroom. Veronica stood up, her finger pointed directly at my face. Her red dress was wrinkled from sitting, her perfect hair was starting to fall out of place, but her eyes were wild, angry, desperate. You think you can intimidate me, she said. Her voice was loud, shaking with rage. I am the mayor's wife. I have been in rooms with governors and senators, and judges much more important than you. I did not say anything, I just watched her. You are a television judge, she continued. You are entertainment, you are not real. You are a performer in a costume playing pretend on a soundstage. The courtroom was silent, even the bailiff stopped breathing. I leaned back in my chair. Mrs. Veronica, I have been called worse by better people. She laughed a harsh, ugly laugh. Better people? There are no better people. There are only people with power and people without power. My husband has real power. You have a camera. 45 seconds, I said. She ignored me. You think you can humiliate me in front of all these people? You think you can take his side because he is poor and you feel sorry for him? I have money, I have connections, I have influence, and when this is over I am going to make sure everyone knows what really happened. 30 seconds. She stepped closer to my bench. The bailiff moved forward. I held up my hand. Let her come, I said. Veronica stopped a few feet from me. You are nobody, she said. You are a has-been. You are a joke. You are 20 seconds. I looked at my watch. Time is up, Mrs. Veronica. She froze. What I said. Time is up. Your 60 seconds to apologize are over. You refused. You mocked me. You threatened me. She opened her mouth to speak. I cut her off. Bailiff. The bailiff stepped forward. Please call the district attorney's office. Veronica's face went white. The district attorney. Yes, Mrs. Veronica, you committed perjury. You lied under oath about the tools. You lied under oath about the construction. You lied under oath about the stolen property. Her lawyer was on her feet. Now, Your Honor, my client is entitled to... Your client is entitled to remain silent, I said, but she did not. She chose to lie, and now she will face the consequences. Veronica grabbed her lawyer's arm. Do something. The lawyer shook her head. There is nothing I can do. I looked at Veronica. Mrs. Veronica, you have one more chance. One, tell the truth right now. Tell this court why you refused to pay Mr. David. She looked at her lawyer. Her lawyer nodded. I did not want to pay him because she stopped. The words came out like a confession. Because why? Because my husband said not to. Your husband, the mayor. Yes, he said, if we paid David, other contractors would expect to be paid too. He said we could use the money for his re-election campaign. The courtroom went silent. I said, let me understand this. Your husband, the mayor, told you not to pay Mr. David so you could use the money for his campaign. Veronica nodded. She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. I looked at David. He was staring at Veronica. His face was unreadable. Mr. David, I said, do you have anything to say? David stood up. He looked at Veronica. I built you a beautiful guest house, he said. I worked 7 days a week. I missed my daughter's birthday. I missed my son's baseball game. I did everything you asked and more, and you stole from me. Veronica did not answer, but that was not the worst part, not even close, because what happened next even I did not see coming. The courtroom was electric. You could feel the tension in the air like static before a thunderstorm. Veronica was crying. Her lawyer was packing her bag. David was sitting in his chair, staring at nothing. But I was not done, Mrs. Veronica. I said, you admitted that your husband, the mayor, told you not to pay Mr. David. Do you have any proof of that? She looked up. Proof? Yes, text messages, emails, recorded phone calls, anything. She hesitated. Then she nodded. I have text messages, she said, from your husband. Yes, may I see them? She pulled out her phone. She scrolled through her messages. Then she handed the phone to the bailiff. The bailiff brought the phone to me. I read the messages. The first message from the mayor to Veronica said, do not pay him. No one will believe a contractor over the mayor's wife. The second message said, tell him the work is shoddy, make him prove it. The third message said, if he sues, counter-sue for theft, say he stole tools. No one will question you. I looked up at Veronica. Your husband wrote these messages. Yes. Do you know what this means? She shook her head. It means your husband is guilty of fraud. It means your husband is guilty of conspiracy. It means your husband is guilty of witness tampering. Veronica started crying harder. I turned to my bailiff. Call the district attorney. Tell them we need an investigation into Mayor Reynolds. The bailiff nodded and left the courtroom. I looked at Veronica. Mrs. Veronica, you are not the only one who will face consequences. Your husband will be investigated. Your husband may go to prison. Your husband may lose everything. She looked at me. Her eyes were empty. I did not want any of this. She said, he made me do it. No one made you do anything. I said, you are an adult. You made choices, and now you will face the consequences of those choices. Her lawyer stood up. Your Honor, my client is willing to settle. We are past settling. I said, we are past negotiations. We are past mercy. I looked at David. Mr. David, I am awarding you the full amount of your claim, $85,000 plus interest plus court costs plus attorney fees. David nodded. Thank you, Your Honor. But that is not all. I am also awarding you punitive damages, $25,000 for the emotional distress Mrs. Veronica caused you and your family. Veronica's lawyer started to object. I held up my hand. I am not finished. I turned to Veronica. Mrs. Veronica, you came into my courtroom in your designer dress with your expensive lawyer and your entitled attitude, and you thought you could lie your way to victory. She did not answer. You were wrong. I picked up my gavel. But before I bring this down, I want you to look at Mr. David. She looked at David. That man worked for you, that man built you a beautiful guest house, that man sacrificed time with his family to make you happy, and you tried to destroy him because your husband wanted money for a campaign." Veronica started crying again. "You should be ashamed of yourself," I said, "but I doubt you are people like you rarely are," I raised my gavel case. The doors flew open. A man in a dark suit walked in. "It was the district attorney, Your Honor," he said. "I need to speak with you immediately." I lowered my gavel. "What is it?" He walked to my bench and whispered something in my ear. My face went cold. I looked at Veronica. "Mrs. Veronica," I said, "it seems your husband has been arrested," she screamed. Veronica screamed a loud, piercing wail that echoed through the courtroom like an injured animal. "No," she shouted. "No, no, no." Her lawyer tried to calm her, but Veronica pushed her away. "You cannot do this," she screamed at me. "You cannot take my husband. You cannot take my life. You cannot take everything." I sat perfectly still and watched her fall apart. "Mrs. Veronica," I said, "your husband was not taken. He was arrested. There is a difference." She grabbed the edge of the defense table. Her knuckles were white. "You do not understand," she said. Her voice was broken, cracked. "You do not know what it is like to be married to a man like him, to have to do what he says, to have no choices." I leaned forward. "No choices, Mrs. Veronica." "He would have left me," she said. "If I did not do what he said, he would have left me and taken everything, the house, the money, the friends. So you chose to ruin an innocent man instead." She looked at David. David was sitting in his chair. His wife was holding his hand. "I did not mean to hurt him," Veronica said. "I just wanted to keep my husband. I just wanted to keep my life." "Your life," I said, "your life built on lies, your life built on stealing from hardworking people, your life built on the destruction of others." She did not answer. I looked at David. "Mr. David, do you have anything to say to this woman?" David stood up. He walked toward Veronica. She flinched like she expected him to hit her, but David did not hit her. He stopped a few feet away and looked at her. "I forgive you," he said. Veronica blinked. "What I forgive you," David said again, "not because you deserve it, but because I am tired. I am tired of being angry. I am tired of fighting. I am tired of hating you." Veronica started crying again. "I have a wife," David said. "I have 2 children, and I have spent 2 years of my life thinking about you, thinking about your money, thinking about your lies. I do not want to think about you anymore." He turned and walked back to his seat. The courtroom was silent. I looked at Veronica. "Mrs. Veronica, you just witnessed something extraordinary. This man, the man you tried to destroy, just forgave you. Do you understand how rare that is?" She nodded. "Do you understand how much grace that takes?" She nodded again. "You do not deserve his forgiveness," I said, "but he gave it to you anyway." Veronica looked at David. David was not looking at her. He was looking at his wife. I said, "Mrs. Veronica, I am going to deliver my final verdict now." She looked up at me. Her eyes were red. Her face was swollen. "I am awarding Mr. David $85,000 for unpaid wages, plus $25,000 in punitive damages, plus court costs and attorney fees." Veronica did not react. "I am also referring your case to the district attorney for perjury charges." Still no reaction. "And I am sending the text messages from your husband to the State Ethics Commission." She closed her eyes. "Mrs. Veronica, your life as you knew it is over. Your husband is going to prison. Your money is going to Mr. David. Your reputation is destroyed." She opened her eyes. "Was it worth it?" I asked. She looked at me for a long moment. She did not speak. "No," she whispered. "It was not worth it." I picked up my gavel. But before I brought it down, the doors opened again. A woman walked in, a woman I had never seen before. She was young, maybe 30 years old. She was carrying a manila envelope. "Your Honor," she said, "my name is Emily. I used to work for Mayor Reynolds." I looked at her. "What are you doing here?" She held up the envelope. "I have evidence that the mayor has been doing this for years, not just to David, but to dozens of contractors." The courtroom went silent. I said, "Come forward," and everything changed. Emily walked to the front of the courtroom. Her hands were shaking, but her eyes were steady. "Your Honor," she said, "I was the mayor's executive assistant for 5 years. I saw everything, the bribes, the kickbacks, the lies." I said, "What exactly did you see?" She opened the manila envelope and pulled out a stack of papers. "These are bank records," she said. "The mayor has a secret account, money from contractors who wanted permits, money from developers who wanted approvals, money from people like David who just wanted to be paid for their work." She handed me the papers. I looked through them. There were dozens of transactions, thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands. I looked at Emily. "Did the mayor know about these accounts?" She nodded. "He created them. He controlled them. He used them to pay for his campaigns and his mistress." The courtroom gasped. Mistress Emily nodded. "Yes, Your Honor, the mayor has been having an affair for 3 years with a woman named Brittany." Veronica screamed again. "You knew?" Veronica shouted at Emily. "You knew and you did not tell me." Emily looked at Veronica. "I am telling you now." Veronica lunged at Emily. The bailiff grabbed her before she could take 2 steps. I slammed my gavel. "Enough." Veronica stopped fighting. The bailiff held her arms. "Mrs. Veronica," I said, "sit down or I will have you removed." She sat. Her face was a mask of rage and pain. I looked at Emily. "Ms. Emily, why are you coming forward now? Emily looked at David, then she looked at me because David is my father. The courtroom went silent. I blinked. Your father, Emily nodded. David is my father. He raised me alone after my mother died. He worked 7 days a week to put me through college. He sacrificed everything for me, and when Veronica tried to destroy him, I could not stay silent anymore. I looked at David. David was crying. His daughter walked to him and hugged him. I looked at Veronica. She was staring at Emily, and David, her face was empty. Mrs. Veronica, I said, do you understand what just happened? She did not answer. Your husband stole from dozens of contractors. Your husband had a secret bank account. Your husband had a mistress for 3 years, and you helped him. You lied for him. You stole for him. You destroyed lives for him. She started crying again. But the person you hurt the most, Veronica, was not David. It was yourself. You gave up your integrity for a man who was cheating on you. You gave up your honesty for a man who was stealing from everyone. You gave up your soul for a man who did not love you. She looked at me. Her eyes were broken. I hope it was worth it, I said. I turned to Emily. Ms. Emily, thank you for your courage, she nodded. I turned to David. Mr. David, you raised an extraordinary daughter, he smiled. Thank you, Your Honor. I picked up my gavel, but before I bring this case to a close, I want to say one more thing. I looked at the camera. Power does not protect you from the truth. Money does not protect you from the truth. A famous husband does not protect you from the truth. The truth is patient. The truth is persistent. The truth always comes out, and today the truth came out. I raised my gavel. Case closed, but there is one more thing, a final twist that even I did not see coming. The gavel came down one final time. Case closed, I said, but the courtroom was not empty. Veronica was still sitting at the defense table. Her lawyer had abandoned her. Her husband was in jail. Her life was in ruins. David and Emily were sitting together holding hands, and then the doors opened one more time. A man walked in, a man in a gray suit. I did not recognize him. Your Honor, he said, my name is Special Agent Miller. I am with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. The courtroom went silent. I said, Agent Miller, what can I do for you? He walked to my bench and handed me a folder. We have been investigating Mayor Reynolds for 2 years, he said. Embezzlement, money laundering, bribery. I opened the folder. The evidence was overwhelming: bank records, wire transfers, emails. Agent Miller continued, Mrs. Veronica Reynolds is not just a witness in this case, she is a co-conspirator. Veronica stood up. What? Agent Miller turned to her. Mrs. Reynolds, you signed checks, you transferred money, you lied to investigators, you are not a victim, you are a criminal. Veronica's face went white. Agent Miller looked at me. Your Honor, we have a warrant for Mrs. Reynolds' arrest. I nodded. The agent walked to Veronica and handcuffed her. She did not fight. She did not scream. She just stood there, her red dress wrinkled, her hair a mess, her eyes empty. As they led her out of the courtroom, she looked back at David. I am sorry, she said. David did not look at her. The doors closed. I turned to David and Emily. Mr. David, Ms. Emily. You are free to go. David stood up. Thank you, Your Honor. He walked toward the door, then he stopped. Your Honor, he said. What happens now? I smiled. Now you go home, you hug your daughter, you live your life, and you forget about Veronica and the mayor and this courtroom. He nodded, and he left. The courtroom was empty, just me and the bailiff and the camera. I took off my glasses. And that is how a corrupt mayor's wife learned that no one, not even the wife of a powerful man, is above the law. Shocking twist. 6 months after this case, Veronica Reynolds was convicted of fraud and embezzlement. She was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. Mayor Reynolds was convicted of 27 counts of corruption. He was sentenced to 15 years. The secret bank account held over $2 million. That money was returned to the contractors the mayor had stolen from, including David. David used his share to pay off his mortgage and start a scholarship fund for children of contractors. Emily quit her job at City Hall and went to law school. She wants to be a prosecutor. And Veronica, she sits in a prison cell wearing an orange jumpsuit, not a red dress. She writes letters to David every week, apologizing, begging for forgiveness. David does not write back. Moral lesson here is what I want you to remember. Power is temporary. Money is temporary. A famous husband is temporary. But your character, your integrity, your honesty, those are forever. Veronica had everything: money, power, a famous husband, a beautiful house, a red designer dress, and she lost it all because she thought she was better than everyone else. David had nothing: no money, no power, no famous friends, no red dress, and he won everything because he never stopped believing that the truth matters. The truth always matters.